Welcome to My Turn Podcast, a gaming podcast hosted by extra competitive siblings. My name's Jem and I'm joined by my littlest brother, Erim.
Hello, how are we all?
Well, I'm good. It's just me and you today, no Tim.
Oh no, where's our adopted brother gone?
I know, adopted brother. I've basically been tag teaming between you both. I've been doing like 1 week with you, 1 week with him.
Okay.
One day you two should do one without me.
Oh, that would be quite... No, we couldn't do that, could we?
Yeah.
I don't know, it might descend into chaos.
He's more organised than I am.
That's exactly it. I need a bit of your craziness in there. Otherwise, it might just be complete polar opposites and us two fighting. Like true siblings.
Well, we are all competitive siblings, including Tim. This is a gaming podcast, and you can expect... What can they expect, Erim?
Apparently something to do with games.
Yeah, we recommend games, we review games, and lots of laughs and arguments along the way.
Not just video games as well, board games, actual games, playground games, drinking games, all the games.
All the games, because we love games. We love me some games. And we are reviewing 2 games for you today. What have we got, Erim?
So I'm going to be looking at Ori, Will of the Wisps, and yourself?
I'm going to be reviewing It Takes Two. So, all-important question, who's going to start proceedings?
You went first last time, so maybe I should go first.
Alrighty. Okay, Erim, as usual on the pod, we like to sum the game up in a nutshell. So give us a nutshell about the game. Okay. And if you want, you can tell us what kind of nut.
What kind of nut? Oh my god. It would be a very decorative nut because this game is stunning to look at. Honestly, the presentation of this platformer game is just breathtaking. It truly, truly is. So this really reminds me of like a classic platformer, like very much akin to something like Super Metroid. Set in this fantasy world with lots of cute and also very scary creatures. And basically, I think the start of this game, you start off with this little owl called Ku, who's your friend. You're Ori, by the way, if you didn't guess from the name. And Ku wants to try and learn to fly, but unfortunately, he gets himself into a bit of mischief and ends up in this land called. Let me just get the name of it quickly. Oh my god, I've lost it. I can't remember the name of the land. He ends up in this new forest, basically, and he gets lost in like this horrible dark shadowlands, and you have to go and try and save him.
Okay.
So, but like, there's this magical forest is kind of like being corrupted by some sort of like rotting happening and some sort of corruption in the land. Very much. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Breath of the Wild, where you've got
Ganons, sort of calamity Ganons.
Yeah, that's it. All the calamity stuff, like that kind of thing. Like the forest is clearly rotting away, and as you're traversing through it, trying to find Ku, you also have a bit of a job to kind of help save the forest.
Okay, so that was quite a big, decorated, maybe Christmassy.
I told you it was very decorative.
But tell us what you're playing the game on, if you know when it came out, who published it or developed it.
I'm playing it on Switch. It actually came out in 2020. It's been released on Windows, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, I think, and Nintendo Switch, and that's it, actually. And just so you know, this is actually a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which was released in 2015. I've not played that myself. I've only had experience with this one game, so I can't really tell you what had happened before.
Yeah, and remind me, who was the developer on this one?
Oh, sorry. The developer... Oh my god, I think I've scrolled right past my notes. It was Moon Studios and published by Xbox Game Studios.
Yeah, because I think they've been on Game Pass because I've got an Xbox and Game Pass, and I'm pretty sure they've both been on that. My partner has played both of them.
Oh, really?
And thoroughly enjoyed them. Yeah. So I've witnessed it in action, but not played myself. So tell us about the gameplay quickly. Like, what kind of game is it? So you've done a little nice story nutshell, but how do we play this? You compared it to Super Metroid as well.
So much so to that classic kind of platformer game. Essentially, you've got like objectives to kind of follow and places to go, but in a lot of the land you kind of see places and like ledges and things that lead to openings that are just out of reach. So what happens as you play and progress through the game, you actually unlock different abilities, and those abilities allow you to, when you come back to like earlier levels, explore further in depth. So you kind of get like a little brief section of the part that you're in, and then you traverse a bit further, and then you end up coming back to like previous lands and exploring it further and further, and the map kind of just opens up quite organically in that way. So it's not you literally just going from one place to the other. There's a lot of repetition, but in a good way. It leaves that kind of mystery of, oh, what's up there, and then
Is this a Metroidvania style game?
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay.
Definitely. Yeah, very much reminds me of it. Especially that you can, especially like the way the lands are, like you go through different places and there'll be like, a lava-y place or somewhere that's really pretty and foresty and underwater levels. And, the very stereotypical cliche kind of old school adventure games where different places will have their own like unique kind of vibe.
Yeah, got ya. All right. So talk me through some of the positives of this game then.
It's honestly stunning. Like you just look at the game, like everywhere you go, every bit of the game, like every landscape, every texture is just so pretty. It's all kind of like neon lit up as well. So it has this really magical ambient kind of style to it. And it's just, honestly, you could just sit there and watch it all day and just be absolutely blown away. And that is a massive, massive, massive point of it. The other things as well, so good things that it does, I've got to talk about the music as well. I think the score is unbelievable, and it's very... Do you remember we spoke about scores being entwined into like the background where you don't really notice it, but it just creates an environment? This is a game that does that, I think, flawlessly, and the way you traverse from one area to another, and there's no abrupt cut-off between music. It's really beautifully just intertwined into another place. So there's no feeling of, oh, all of a sudden I'm in Fireland. It just slowly transforms into that.
That's lovely.
Yeah, the other thing as well, like the actual gameplay and the mechanics of movement and things like that are very, very intuitive. Once you start using a skill, I found it was really, like, I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing to use those skills to get to other places. It just seems to all of a sudden become second nature, which I don't know how you managed to implement that, but they've done it in such a way.
Yeah.
It just works.
I mean, one of my problems with those kinds of games is just the amount of information you have to store in your brain in terms of what action corresponds to what sequence of button pressing.
Yeah.
Especially with things like Metroid, the new one's meant to be insane in terms of what you've got to hold in your brain of how to.
Oh my god!
There's so many different sort of actions and things. So that's great that it seemed to come naturally to you and you didn't need to overthink that.
No.
And what about the sort of style of gameplay? Is it varied enough? Did you find?
How do you mean in terms of style of gameplay, like what you're actually doing?
Yeah, the action.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I think it's a bit kind of middle groundy because essentially what you're doing is exploring, different bits of land. It's very much like you've got what do they call it? Kind of like waypoints that you find on the map, and you travel that way, and you have to battle different things and overcome certain obstacles. I don't think. There is definitely variation, and as you progress and you get more skills, you're able to utilize them more and more. But I didn't find actually the variety was quite enough for me. I felt like I was doing a lot of the same things to get from place to place, and a bit like earlier when I discussed about that you come back on yourself, you find yourself doing the same things again and again. It's not, I'm not completely put off by that, but yeah, it's not like, I wouldn't say the versatility of gameplay is the strong point of this game for sure.
Okay, so for you, it's more about atmospherics.
Atmospheric, yeah. The little creatures are really cute. Yeah, like the good creatures are honestly adorable, and the things you're scared of, like some of the shadowy creatures, are bloody terrifying. Like literally like nightmare stuff.
And you introduced the idea of the story, like the kind of quest that Ori takes on, quite nicely at the beginning. Does that sort of sustain a sort of sense of story and narrative all the way through it?
Yeah, a bit. I wouldn't say. Yeah, there is definitely an underlying story in the background. Like it's not a completely story-driven game, but it is important to the actual gameplay, if that makes sense. But essentially, the main mission is you're trying to find Ku and save Ku. You do eventually get to find Ku, but yeah, there's other stuff that happens around that as well, and then also beyond that. So yeah, your main mission kind of develops as time goes on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. And what were, if any, negatives for you?
Okay, so here's the weird thing about this. I thought I should really love this game, but I found I'm just getting a bit bored of it now.
Yeah, because they're not small games, are they? They're pretty
not.
extensive.
Yeah, they are very expensive. I'm at the
extensive, like long, as in there's a lot of game.
I thought you said
not a quick game.
Expensive.
No.
It costs lots. Yeah, no, it is quite long, and I do want to come back to it and actually finish it off, because I think I've got pretty far, to be honest. I'm coming towards the end.
Oh, so you haven't completed it yet?
No. I'm not far away from the end, though. I'm
okay.
pretty sure of it from reading what I've read about it and seeing other people
I
play.
weirdly helped Alex do the ending.
Did
so
you?
I know the ending of the game.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing, I actually didn't play the beginning of the game. I've been playing it with my partner, so that's why I was a bit like, I couldn't actually remember a few details.
Erim, you're doing like a weird review. You've like tag teamed into the game.
Well, basically, it's a bit like Inside, similar kind of thing. Yeah, Beth started playing it, and then I've been the one who's been finishing it.
Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't heard Erim talk about how he plays a kind of weird cooperative game with his partner that isn't really a co-op game, he does this quite a lot, where they do a level each. Or isn't it usually Beth gets scared and then hands you the controller?
Yeah,
or
if it gets a
frustrated?
bit too difficult for her, yeah, and then she hands me the controller. Yeah. I think that's another kind of negative, I guess. If you're a very, very casual gamer, it might be a bit too difficult. But
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's not horrendously
It looks hard.
It's not like, I think if you're someone who plays games regularly, I think you'll be fine. But if you're someone who just, like I said, very casual, picks it up once now and then, it might be a bit too much.
Is it the kind of game like Metroid, for example, where you kind of have to fail sometimes in order to realise, oh, actually, I've got to approach it another way?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like when I said about things just being out of reach, like you feel like you might be able to get up to a ledge, but no matter what you try, you don't. Then you think, oh, okay, maybe there's an ability I've missed. Then you come across an ability that lets you like latch onto plants on the wall or something. Oh, okay, now I can go back there and re-explore this area.
Yeah, right, all right. Yeah, so I can see that kind of thing, like certainly for me and players like me, can become frustrating if you just want to, if you're not about like repeating stuff, if you want to just maybe have 1 or 2 goes at something and move on rather than 8 or 9 goes at something and then move on.
And then come back to it a couple more times.
Be a big difference.
Well.
Yeah. And then come back again later when you've got new abilities. Woo.
Yeah. But like, again, I just wanted to actually, because I didn't get a chance to bring this up when I was doing the positives, the abilities actually in this game as well make it, they're customizable as well, so you don't have to use all the abilities. You have like you can select which ones you think will appeal and work to you, work in
great.
your playstyle
Okay.
best. So yeah, there is that kind of option to upgrade as you want. Yeah, not everyone will go down the same path or choose the same kind of upgrade. So in that way, it's customizable. Also, the controls are customizable. You can select different, different abilities to different controls. So maybe that's what makes it a bit more intuitive, that you actually determine the setup of what you're doing.
Yeah, they did that on Psychonauts too. I mean, I know a lot of games you can go into accessibility menus and stuff now and fiddle around with what button means what action. But I really like that in Psychonauts 2, which I played recently, because you then could go, right, it makes sense to me to put this projectile on the trigger finger, so I'm going to do that because that's how my brain works. It makes sense for me to do a jump on this button, for example, so I'll stick that there. So yeah, I like that when you can do that at the point that you gain the ability, you get to think about where you're going to assign it. Yeah.
And it's important to also, as well, have be aware of all your different abilities, because different places will require you to change what you're doing as well. So yeah, even though you get to pick and choose, you will have to eventually use all your abilities, really. But yeah, going back to negatives, like I said, it is a bit drawn out, and I really did find myself losing interest with it towards the end. Because weirdly enough, even though it is stunning and beautiful, and there is a lot of, this is such a contradiction of what I've said, but I genuinely mean it, because a lot of like the landscape is all just like in this particular style that even though it is diverse, it's not. It doesn't feel different enough all the time to keep you engaged. Just everywhere is like stunningly beautiful and like beautifully lit up. And there will be like the odd, like the shadow place was really cool with all these weird, distorted, dark creatures. But yeah, the rest of it just seems like this beautiful, vibrant forest with just like different color schemes. And I don't know, maybe because it is so seamless from place to place, you don't really feel like, oh, no, I'm here kind of thing. I don't know. It's a bit of a contradictory thing, but I really feel like there is something very samey about all these different places.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, I think, especially with these kinds of games where, as you say, you are sort of going round and round back on yourself, opening up a room maybe too soon, having to go back to it. Like, you sort of need that variation in setting as a kind of brain break, because otherwise you are, and these games, as you've said, are challenging. So every time you go into a place, even if you've been to it before, things respawn, don't they? So
Yeah.
like the place is never conquered, and you know, it's not just easy to get about without just getting killed. So yeah, I know what you mean. I've only watched bits of Alex playing it, and it did look stunning. And I don't really remember like coming down at a different point in gameplay and seeing anything particularly different.
That's
it always looked.
But it was probably
always
a
looked
completely
like
different
Ori.
Yeah, exactly. It's
And
got
I've seen
a very
him play the
strong
other
style.
game as well.
Yeah.
And the other game looked like Ori. And probably that is, as you say, the charm of it, and whether or not you need that differentiation to be really stark in order to keep you interested just probably depends on what kind of player you are, I guess.
I think because of the length of gameplay, it could have done with something being a bit more drastic. Yeah.
All right, let's before we move on to any kinds of things of note, talk me through the bosses. How did you find the bosses?
What do you mean? I didn't find them too bad, to be honest.
You didn't find them hard?
No, do you know what? Like, thinking about it, the bosses that I fought, I generally beat in the first or second time, actually.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I didn't find them too challenging. They're very cool, though. Like,
yeah.
They are really, really, really cool. Like, proper monstery, weird things.
I thought that having seen Alex, because obviously those are the bits that you'll see someone replay when they die, the harder kind of boss battles, and they all look so cool. I think the design is amazing.
Oh, there's also different types of bossish battles as well. You do get, I don't know if you saw Alex play, there's one particular one that you have to actually like run away from. That's almost like a bit of a time challenge. That's probably the only one I hated, because I hate time challenges, because you're just like tense.
Oh, is it like a side scroll run away?
Well, not just side scroll, like it will go different directions basically. And you'll have to hide behind things when it's like in front of the camera.
Yeah,
and it will
those
look
things
around
can
the
be
corner.
really tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bosses are really, really cool. I quite enjoyed them. I wasn't too frustrated by any of them at all, to be honest.
Cool. All right. Well, tell us then if there's anything else of note or anything else that you'd like to touch on.
There's anything else of note? I mean, again, just, yeah, it is, like, as I said before, it truly is stunning and, like, gorgeous to look at. Does it do anything that I've not really seen in any other games, though? I don't think it does. And particularly if you've played the first Ori game, I don't really think there's anything too new. From what I understand, there's more emphasis on the combat system. And I guess, yeah, customizability of what you're using for combat. But this is all stuff that's been done before. I don't feel there's anything too original in this game. Not that that's a bad thing in any way. Just there's nothing that really makes me go, oh, fucking hell, that was like such an original idea. I'd love to see that in more games. Yeah, nothing really grips me with this game, and this is
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. All right. So who would you recommend this game to?
If you were a kid playing things like Metroid and Super Metroid, and you still love those classic platformers, which I feel like might be slightly coming back into fashion at the minute, this is a game for you. This is. And also, if you love the fact in that Super Metroid game, you could customize your guns and mix and match stuff, which was one of the things I bloody loved. I loved going around and freezing aliens, and then also like charging my gun to like, do crazy shots. Things like that. Yeah, you've got that customizability in this game. So yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone who is a classic platformer, or anyone who just wants like a bit of a challenging, longer old school game, I think. Yeah.
Oh, all right. And one that immerses you in a beautiful fantasy setting.
Yeah.
There we go. So brings us to the all-important rating. What would you rate this game out of 10?
I kind of want to give it 2 ratings because I don't know how to do this. So I think as a game it deserves an 8 out of 10 because from what other people have said and from what I can appreciate of the game, like it is incredibly well done. It really sucks you into the atmosphere. The game mechanics are just so smooth and like easy to work with. But for me personally, I think it's actually maybe a 6 or 7, just because
in terms of your enjoyment.
Like the game's great, but I'm now at the point where I just want it to end. And I don't think that's a well executed game for me, where you get to a point where you're like, okay, come on, where am I going now? Like it feels a bit like a chore at the minute. Like the enjoyment, the real enjoyment for me has gone. But that's not to take anything away from the game, because for some people that extra extended gameplay is probably a bit more of a bonus for you, and the fact that there is just so much to explore. So yeah.
I think if you are buying the game at full price, then you kind of want that value, don't you?
Yeah. That's true. But yeah, just I think it needed to present more, rather than once you got to a certain point in the game, you're essentially just going back on yourself and a little bit further in each of these levels. Yeah, just needed more from it, really. So yeah, for me personally, 6 out of 10. But as a what do you call it? As a fair reviewer, someone who takes other people's perspectives into view, I think I'd say 8 out of 10.
Okay, great. Thank you, Erim.
You're very welcome.
I mean, from my point of view, these games I know I don't like, because I'm not a person that enjoys a Castlevania at all.
Metroidvania.
I might play 10 minutes just so that I can go, yep, I know what that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about playing enough games to know what you like and know what you don't like. So I'm happy to watch other people play it.
That's fair enough. I mean,
and listen to the music. The music is really
amazing.
nice.
You can literally just sit there and watch it.
The soundtrack's
really.
lovely. Yeah, you can just listen to it while you're working.
To be honest, like I'm a massive fan, especially of Super Metroid. That is one of my favourite all-time games. For all those reasons, for the atmosphere, for the music, for the versatility and the abilities. And this does all that, but it just doesn't quite.
It's not Super Metroid.
No, it's not.
I really so our other brother, who's currently has not been on the pod for about a year now because he's too busy for us.
He's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, whatever. He's a huge Metroid fan, and he has been playing the new Metroid Dread. And I asked him if it was as hard as they were saying it was, and he said, yes, pretty hard. Apparently it's really difficult.
That is saying something because he's very much up for a challenge as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do it, and I'm sure he'll 100% it eventually. But it's just interesting how we all like slightly different games. Right, so on to me, I guess.
Yeah, so remind us, what was your game then, Jem?
So in a nutshell, I'm going to put this into an acorn, actually.
Remind us of the title.
Oh, sorry, It Takes Two.
Because every time I hear that title, it reminds me of that song.
It takes two, baby.
Good. Now I've got my joke in. No, you kind of ruined it by skipping straight to the nutshell bit. But hey ho. Okay, describe it in a sort of nut.
Well, it's going to go in an acorn.
Acorn? Why an acorn?
I don't mean that. Is that a nut or is that a seed? I don't know.
I don't know. Ask
I'll tell you why it's in an acorn, because there are acorns in the game.
Oh.
At one point.
Okay.
So It Takes Two is an action-adventure platform game. It's developed by Hazelight Studios, who did a game called This Way Out or A Way Out. I always forget what the game's called, but I reviewed that at the beginning of the year, I think. And it was published by EA and released on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, back in March of 2021. So it's a newish game. And it is, very importantly, a cooperative split-screen multiplayer.
Oh, wow.
So you have to play this cooperatively.
So I'm assuming you're playing with Alex then?
Yes.
How is that going? Is he actually enjoying
it? Yes, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In other words, audience, she is forcing
negatives.
him to play this, as part of his husbandly duties, yeah?
So we there's the main sort of, or one of the main development heads behind this game, Joseph Fares, he developed a game called A Tale of Two Sons, and Alex and I mean that came out 2014 2013, like we played it a few years ago, and that was a beautiful kind of like Nordic setting game which had a sort of cooperative element to it, and we played that and we both really loved that. And then Joseph Fares went to Hazelight, or is part of Hazelight now. And that studio's first game, I believe, I could be getting this completely wrong, but I think their first game was A Way Out, which came out in 2018, which is the one I mentioned that we've already reviewed. And that is again, like a kind of, you have to be playing co-op. But that's like a prison escape, and the same sort of creative mind was behind both those games.
Yeah.
We played that one as well. We liked that a lot less for reasons that we explained in the review. But when I saw this one had come out, I was like, I want to have another go with these games because we liked the first one so much. And we thought that this one sort of resembled A Tale of Two Sons, or brothers, a bit more. And also I'd heard good things about it. Yeah. So Alex did want to play, to answer your question in a long, convoluted
That was a very convoluted way of answering, but hey ho, we got there in the end, and that's all that matters. So tell us about this game, The Good.
Do you want me to tell you a bit about the type of gameplay?
Oh, yes, okay. Well, you said it was an action-adventure platform.
Yeah, I know, but how is it play through, Erim?
Go on,
so
then.
it is a split-screen co-op, but you can also play it online. So I don't think you have to be in the same room. But basically, you take charge of a little toy person because you are the parents of a little girl. And you, as parents, it's a man and woman character, Cody and May, have decided to get a divorce.
Oh, no.
And you've got a small daughter, I think she's about 6, called Rose, and she gets very upset that mummy and daddy are having a divorce, and she cries on 2 little toys, and there's like a man toy and a woman toy.
Yeah.
Looks a bit like the parents, not really, but kind of. And when she cries on them, you kind of get morphed into these little dolls.
Oh.
And the game begins. And so this is why I want to mention the gameplay. The whole game pretty much takes place across parts of the house, the garden, under the floorboards, in the fish tank. Like, it's all kind of, you're basically like a little borrower, like a tiny little toy, and you're moving around in almost like a child's world, certainly at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Sounds very
So it's really cool.
fascinating. But
Yeah.
All right.
So positive.
Yes, let's go for it.
The design of gameplay is so clever. There are things that you do and experience playing this game that you're just constantly going, oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, wow, that's so cool. Whee! I think I said whee playing this game so
Is there a
much
slide?
because yeah, there's a lot of sliding
Okay.
and darting and flying and
Farting?
whooshing and flying.
I thought you said farting then.
No.
Well, my headphones are clearly changing what you're saying.
I didn't come across any farting, but oh no, I lie. There is a bit with a whoopee cushion.
Ah, well, there you go. Farting and flying.
So what's really satisfying to me is that this game, it does feel like it feels a bit kiddie, but it does feel more pitched at an adult audience.
Yeah.
And so all of the toys and things are quite nostalgic. So there's an Etch-a-Sketch at one point. So I just got really excited about that. Like, and there's a wooden train set that reminded me of the train set that used to be in Early Learning Centre. For anyone listening in the UK. Woo, you know that wooden train set track?
Yes. Yeah,
baby.
Did we have one? I feel like we might have done.
Yeah, there's some quite sort of nostalgic touches to it. There's like loads of little mini games dotted throughout the levels.
Okay.
And some of those are super nostalgic as well. Like
Go on, give us
I think
an
it's quite an
example.
American game, but like there's 2 little figures and you press a button and they swing for a baseball.
Oh.
A bit like the boxers fighting.
Yeah,
like that kind
That's
of thing.
exactly the image I had in my head, actually.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that. There's kind of like fairground type games and like slingshot stuff. Like there's just so much fun stuff. At one point you can do a mini game that's like a bucking bronco and you have to stay on it. It's really fun. So just the sheer variety of gameplay experiences. And it says it's a platformer, but it doesn't feel like a platformer because it's so every area is it feels like its own kind of little world.
Yeah.
So it's not just everything's 3D, you can run in any direction. So there are platforms and it is a platformer, but it's not like
Not a typical one.
It's not a typical platformer. Like it's more vast.
Yeah.
It's more expansive. And the way that you traverse a level or an area is often quite varied. So there's not always one way to get across a big space, especially in some of the neutral areas. So in this game, there's lots of different playscapes, I guess. Like I said, like sometimes you're in a playroom, sometimes you're in the shed, sometimes you're in a tree. And in those, what I'll call playscapes, there are neutral areas which they allow you to kind of have some fun in, which is where you can pick up a mini game and play a mini game, which is nothing to do with the main game, but just a bit of fun that you can have. And it's always versus.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you're versus, because the rest of the time you have to work together.
Yeah.
The whole point of the game is you two coming together because you're getting a divorce. So you all come together and work together. Blah, blah, blah.
Is that the main mission of the game, to try and stop mummy and daddy from being divorced?
No. the main mission of the game is to get back to your adult bodies. Yeah, because you're toys, so you're like, we're stuck as toys.
Yeah.
So right at the beginning, the first mission is we need to find our daughter. Then you realise your daughter can't see you. It's not really a spoiler because it's quite early on in the game.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, we're stuck as toys. What are we going to do? So they're trying to figure out. But there is a little character that pops up, and the character has got, I think, a sort of problematic voice, but...
A problematic voice?
It's just, it's like got a sort of Hispanic, Latinx sort of joke voice, and it's a book, and it's like the Dr. Hakim, Doctor of Love. And he's like a love doctor, but he's also a book about relationships. And he's trying to get you back together through the whole game. So all of the cutscenes, there's like a kind of weird little Spanish guitar strum, like and then he pops up, and it is really fun. Like, it is really funny, but after a while I was like, oh god, the stereotype is just it's kind of driving me nuts.
No.
I haven't looked up if that actor is Latinx or anything, but I don't know. It just is like, really? Are we doing that? Okay. But yeah, he's like, hola, and stuff, you know, it's just a bit like, okay, right. But anyway,
well,
he
hopefully
kind of,
it's all just harmless fun rather than anything.
yeah, I mean, no, I mean, that's the thing, like, that's what it's designed to be.
Yes.
So I'm just going to leave it at that. People make their own decisions. But he kind of guides you along your way, and so each playscape is kind of you having to work together a bit more in different ways, and in each playscape, as well as the setting being completely different and some of your actions being completely different, you get given something. So you might have a magnet on your backs, or you might have like a glue gun and a blaster, or you might have something that makes you big and small. Something that makes you clone yourself. Like, it's so inventive, and every area, every kind of play zone or playscape, as I've been calling them, has its own little twist and its own feel to it.
Yeah.
And the variation, honestly, is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I've just come off of playing Psychonauts 2, which blew my mind with how slick and varied the platforming and the gameplay styles were in that. And then playing this afterwards feels like a really good sort of continuation of that fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a similar game, but the way you experience the game feels similar, if that makes sense.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it sounds like there's
these are all the massive positives, and they are huge positives, because I cannot understate how good and how inventive the different play styles are throughout the game. Never bored.
Good. Well, you shouldn't be bored playing a game. I mean, that's why we do it at the end of the day. But yes, anyway, going on to... So obviously it sounds amazing, and it sounds like there's a lot of positives. So are there any negatives? Because there are... Oh, okay. Very resounding yes.
Okay, so I'm going to caveat this with, this might not be a negative for everyone. It depends on your tolerance of games trying to tell you emotional things. So I'll just caveat it with that. So obviously there is this sort of like sad side to the game, which is that there's a child whose parents are getting a divorce, and she's clearly quite distressed, like the little girl. Like, at one point the parents think making her cry is the way to make them human again, and you're just like, and that wasn't very nice. Like, I just didn't enjoy that, but I was like, don't make her cry, this is really mean. And the way that you make her cry was actually horrible, and I didn't want to do it, but you had to. Yes, there's stuff like that where I'm just like, no.
Please don't tell me it's like beating your child or something.
No.
Okay,
I mean, it's not harmful, but it is emotionally harmful, right? So it's something you do with one of her toys.
Yeah. Well, that sounds even weirder.
It's like you harm one of her favourite toys.
Oh, okay.
But it just was horrible, and the whole time we were doing it, I was going, Alex, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. And having not played Last of Us 2, I feel like I was in the same mental state that people have described with some of the character choices on Last of Us 2, because you have no control. Yeah. I haven't played the game, but I've just heard people discuss like how bad they felt when the characters did something that you can't control. So I'm like, this is what it must feel like. I just felt horrible. But so what you do get is you get these cut scenes with the humans. So right at the beginning, you see the humans as like humanoid naturalistic characters, and the little girl as well. And then every now and again through the game, you get a cut scene back to the little girl talking about her feelings and things like that. And then there's Dr. Hakim's relationship advice, which is just sort of like really silly and but still trying to drumming in these things of like, you have to cooperate, you have to listen to each other, you have to make time with each other, you have to be attracted to each other, you have to have love for each other, like all this stuff. And then the little girl going, Mummy and Daddy seem really mad, it must be my fault, you know, and stuff like that. And it just started to jar after a while. I was like, I just want to play the game.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of felt like, for me, I'd rather have just had the beginning scene with the little girl, maybe one in the middle, just to like make sure that we knew where we were going with the story. Maybe at the point where they tried to make her cry. Obviously, that's not the right thing to do to your children. And then I just want the end one. And then that's sort of it. I just don't need to see the real humans.
Yeah.
And there was just something really... Like, I never want to criticise voice actors because I'm a voice actor myself. I think they do a great job. It's just partly sometimes casting or script, and something about the little girl, like, I think her script was so sort of on the nose and it seemed too old for her or something. Like, her voice just... I don't know, something wasn't working. I don't know if it was the voice. Maybe it was the animation on the little girl. She sort of seemed too old, but was meant to be really young or something.
Yeah.
So it just, every time it got to those cutscenes, it just took us out of it. And we were both, I said we weren't bored by the game, but we were sort of bored by the cutscenes. We were like, just get on with it. Like, we get it. We get it. There's a serious undertone. Whoa, okay.
So I guess, the cutscenes almost ruined the immersion for you.
Yeah, because... the whole thing that makes a game really special is the aspect of working together. And I think that you already drumming that home because you as players have to work together. Yeah. And if you start getting impatient with each other, like Alex and I do often because I'm usually rushing him, I'm always like, come on, I'm already halfway up the mountain or whatever. And so then he gets annoyed with me because I've got no patience and I'm always rushing him. But then, you know, you have to take stock and then you say, no, actually, sorry, we have to do this together. I'll wait for you. I'm going to stop being an arsehole. So I feel like the function of the game does that extra story layering. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I feel like them then having the cutscenes and it just being so serious and somber just jarred against this really fun world.
It's almost too obvious the point that they're driving home by the sounds of it. Like, this is the point of this. Look, this is the point of, like, really just like,
Yeah, that's exactly it, Erin. That is exactly it. Have you understood? Have you understood the greater message of the game yet? Like, and that just really is a massive negative for me. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. But some people might not mind. Some people might like that.
Fair enough. But I always think with media, I think sometimes being a bit more open to interpretation and thought-provoking is the better way to go rather than just stuffing a point down someone's throat.
Quite, yeah. Show, don't tell, I think. Yeah.
So I think our next point would be, what does this game do uniquely? Obviously, you touched on the diversity of the gameplay, but is there anything else you want to bring up with that?
I think that both these, or all of these games that Joseph Fares has had a hand in, do bring something quite unique just to the game world, in that this 2-player cooperative option is more than just, oh, by the way, you can play together if you want to. It's integral to the puzzle design. And I think that is what makes this game and his other games, we didn't like A Way Out as much, but a lot of people did. But it's what makes them unique. And just to touch on the puzzles, because I think they themselves are worth mentioning. Yeah. They are, like, they're signposted a little bit, so they're very accessible. But there are some that are challenging. And I really like that. And they're sometimes challenging because you have to think about them and you have to think outside the box in order to find ways of solving them. And they're also challenging in the fact that even when you know what you need to do, there is some skills involved. So, for example, there's a level with magnets where you really have to be moving at the same time in order to get both ends of an object lined up properly. There's bits where you co-pilot. It's one of my favourite bits of the game. There's like a little kind of Star Wars inspired sequence, but you're flying on a ship made out of a pair of underpants through a tree trunk, kind of infiltrating the sort of squirrel Death Star. It's crazy. It's really, really
That's
cool.
amazing.
It's amazing. But like, you have to work together. So someone will be steering and someone will be shooting. And similarly, there's like whitewater rapids and like a crazy giant octopus toy with a really cute face that's going to smash you to pieces. And like, you have to sort of work together to sort of navigate yourself. And the boss fights again have that level of puzzling. You have to figure out how to beat them. You can't just blast them with stuff, and you always have to work together. So one of my favorite boss fights in the game involved, you know, someone firing some sap at certain targets for then the other person who had the blaster to ignite the sap, rather than hitting straight at the boss. So you had to be strategic, you had to think, you had to puzzle, like the whole way through. The most important thing was you had to work together. And I really love that. And there just aren't enough games that take co-op to the next level.
That's exactly. Do you know what? That was going to be something that I was going to bring up actually. So when I think it was pretty much when we started doing the podcast, we actually discussed about how there was a lack of local
Couch
multiplayer,
co-op,
and co-op games. But it sounds like that genre of game isn't dead, and maybe it's going through a bit of a transformation then, and maybe it will come back into fashion, which is really encouraging, because I used to absolutely like... That is one of the things of my childhood, is sitting there playing games with my brother and sister and getting punched in the head.
You mean me? I got punched in the head.
Okay, yeah. Well, basically,
brother.
it was our brother being a dick. But that was our childhood.
No, I normally threw the controller across the room in frustration. Went, I can't play with you guys.
Exactly, and we want to do that as adults, where we throw wine glasses instead and smash TVs.
I just swear at the games now rather than throwing things.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I might throw a control every now and then, but
But I think you're right, Erin. Because co-op games are huge, but only kind of one type of two types of co-op games. First-person shooter games, like online games, right? And battle royale games online. Now, I don't really enjoy playing those games online. If I'm going to play those games, I like to play them at home on my own so I can think clearly. I don't want to play those kinds of games with strangers. Obviously there's like esports as well, and racing games. I forgot. I lied. There's loads of games you can play as co-op. But what we're talking about specifically is this kind of more considered couch co-op, or just one-to-one co-op, which you can play online or you can play in person next to each other. And that isn't just about clearing a bunch of enemies, it's more thoughtful. It's not about being the best at something, it's about working together. So it's not winning the race, it's not clearing the arena, it's working together to solve something.
And that is team.
Exactly, and that is exactly the point of difference with these games, and this game in particular, because this game is quite long compared to the last two. So, certainly compared to the last Hazelight game, it's a lot longer. There's a lot more to it. And you get a lot of time to have this experience. It's really damn cool.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, no, it sounds really, really, really good. I'd love to give it a go at some point, actually. Did you say what platforms it's available on? Sorry.
I did. I think it's on all the things except Nintendo Switch.
Oh, that's a shame. That's what I was looking for.
I can imagine that it would... Well, it's on PlayStation. I can imagine that it would port really nicely onto Switch, but I don't know if there's any plans to do that. It would play well on the Switch, I think, because it's very...
I feel like the Switch is actually,
cartoony.
I don't know. I feel like it's set up for co-op games and multiplayer. There's something
Yeah,
about
that'll
it.
be the little controllers that come off and you can play multiplayer. Yeah, it'll be that, Erim. Yeah.
There we go. Anyway, so
really weird. I'm not sure what it is about the Switch that makes it really good for multiplayer games.
Well, I forgot about that bit, obviously. Anyway, so recommendations for this game.
I would recommend this to anyone who enjoys cooperative gaming, anyone who loves action platformers. If you like things like Rayman Adventures, I think you'd love the Rayman Legends. You'd probably love this. If you like Psychonauts 2, get into this as well. Also, if you've got a mate that you want to play a game online with and you're not into like playing, I don't know, all these blimmin' first-person shooters and battle royales, and you want something a bit more chilled, have a go on this, because it is chilled, but it is also really exciting and fun. So, I recommend it to a lot of people. Have fun with it. It's really good.
Brilliant.
And it's nominated for tons of awards as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah.
So that brings us on nicely to your rating.
My rating, I think just let down by this sort of driving the story home too much. So I'm going to maybe cheat and give it an 8.5.
No, that's fair enough. I think we should be allowed to do halves.
Halves, yeah. It's like, I can't quite give it a 9 because those cutscenes were killing me. But look, great game, and huge hats off to the designers on this and the devs on this, because wow, they made some really exciting sequences for us to play, and it's super fun.
Brilliant.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Oh my goodness, I'm such an idiot. Really important. You can choose who you are. You can be the little lady or the little man, and you can swap at any time when you relaunch the game. Yes, you can take turns because they have different powers.
I was going to say, is there different mechanics between them?
Sorry, I should have said that, because that's really important, because you don't want to like be stuck with one and then kind of not be able to. You get the opportunity to do both. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. All right. Well, I think that pretty much brings us to the end of today.
Rounds us off nicely. And in Tim's absence...
Oh, I haven't thought about this. Bloody hell.
Oh, no, I'll do yours. You do mine.
No. Well, oh, damn.
Okay, so yours is called Ori...
Ori Will of the Wisps.
All right. So it's set in a dark forest, yeah?
Magical forest that has some sort
a
of
magical
corruption
forest
going on in it,
with some corruption. So I'm thinking something dark with a bit of heat to it, sweetness, but gonna get you blind drunk if you drink too many of them because they taste too good. Dark and stormy cocktail.
well,
we had those at my wedding. And they were lethal because they tasted so damn nice.
Oh no!
Do you remember? Did you have any?
I can't remember.
They were a rum-based cocktail.
No, I don't remember.
Oh, lethal.
Maybe I did have. Oh, well, they had. Yeah, actually, I think they were at the beginning, weren't they?
Yeah, at the beginning when we had cannabis.
Yeah, they were.
Erim's already forgotten my wedding. It only happened 6 months ago.
Well, no, for some reason I was thinking the cocktails were at the end of the evening. I couldn't remember having any cocktails, but then I was like, oh yeah, we did have those very tasty drinks.
Yeah. All right. So it takes two. Go on, Erim. Oh, let's recommend a tasty
so
tipple.
I'm just thinking, mummy and daddy fighting. It's got to be Stella.
No, we've had Stella before.
Well, I'm sorry. What else do you call wife beater?
There's no domestic violence in this game.
Sorry, I forgot
apart
you said
from
there
against toys.
Well, all things count, don't they? Toy rights. Oh shit! I don't know. Oh, what's famous for making people argue? It Takes Two. Oh, It Takes Two.
Yeah, but it's called It Takes Two, and it's about collaboration and working together.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not as well versed with drinks as you are. What cocktail needs two people to come together, or maybe two different drinks? How many different spirits are there in Negroni?
3.
Oh, fuck's sake! All right, wait.
Something that you have with a chaser.
Oh, okay,
or something that you have with a cocktail that you can't. I got it. How about a tequila slammer? Because you've got to have the lemon,
and you've got to have
the salt, and then you've got to have the tequila.
There we go.
And you've got to slam it.
Yes,
so
just like
that's multiple elements having to work together with a particular action to make that experience work.
Fucking hell, that was deep. Oh, okay.
And it ties in with the slightly weird Latinx Hispanic character. There we go.
Wow, you've actually done a really good job of that.
Thank you.
I was very much struck. All right, next I completely forgot about that, so I didn't even think about it. You put me on the spot there. All right, next time I'll try and come up with one.
It's Tim that does the drinks pairings to go with games.
Well, that's it.
Let us know, listeners, if you've got any recommendations.
I'm going to have to extend my drinks knowledge, definitely.
Thank you very much for tuning in for this episode of My Turn podcast. Yeah. Where can people find us, Erim?
On all podcasting platforms, and
are we
available on Spotify as well?
Yes, we are. We're on
there
all
you
the
go.
things.
So everywhere.
So just search My Turn. Well, mind you, you're already listening to us, but just share us on all the platforms, all right? But we're also on the socials, on Instagram and on Twitter. Say hi.
We need a TikTok.
Also, please recommend us and share us with your friends. As we said, we're on all the platforms. And if you're a really nice person and you give us a 5-star review on iTunes, what will we do, Erin? What might we include on the next episode?
What, are we going to mention their name and tell them we love them and that they're the best person ever? Fantastic.
And we'll line up some tequila slammers to do with them if we ever see them in real life. So there we go.
That will result in me throwing up on them, but if they're really into that, sure.
That's what collaboration's all about. With that, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Idiot.